if you get this wrong, the opportunity cost of a bad acquisition, you don't want any acquisition to go wrong. But the first 2 or 3, if you think you're going to do this on a serial basis, you really need to take your time. This is not something that can really end in divorce well. This is old-fashioned marriage. This is death to do us part. I think the most important thing is that you first have your house in order. Sometimes people are thinking about doing an acquisition because they've gotten into trouble and they think that like this will buy them out of it. That is like just adding fuel to a house that is on fire.
Over the years, you've had over 70 acquisitions.
Yes.
4 exits.
Yep, just had a 5th. Yep.
Just had a 5th exit. You've been responsible for or involved in over $2 billion worth of company growth.
Yes.
You have a goal in your business to help 10,000 founders through exits of their own.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's no way we're going to help them directly. So we're coming up with ways to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That is true.
All right.
That is a goal.
This is amazing already. And I know you're still at it. You know, you and I talk quite a bit. I know that you still have a lot of irons in the fire and you're not done yet.
No.
But I want to talk a little bit about, you know, the last... Well, let's start with talking about the last 10 years, and then maybe we can focus in a little bit before that, but, you know, kind of a reverse timeline kind of thing.
Sure.
So walk me through the last 10 years of your life. You and I met, to give context to the audience, you and I met, what, about 10 years ago?
I think so.
Some, 8 to 10 years ago, something like that. You were just starting with degree 1, I believe.
That's right.
And you know, you had I don't remember exactly how we got connected. If you had reached out to me,
I pinged you on LinkedIn.
Sure, yeah,
I think I used to do all my M&A sourcing myself.
On that.
As a C, yeah. Anyway.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, you and I met at a coffee shop in Chandler, I think.
Yeah.
And so it was an incredible conversation. You were my first kind of experience in that, just talking to somebody who is so involved in M&A. So I want to know, first and foremost, what got you into that seat at degree 1? How did that pan out? What was it?
Yeah, so because we're not going in the way back machine.
Not yet.
But what got me into that seat was I was running a very large division of it was the second one I had run at a publicly traded engineering and construction firm. And I'd say about 3 years before I left, private equity was calling me, having me, and I was thinking about leaving and becoming a CEO outside of the things I had done, inside of I was president, CEO of divisions at publicly traded companies and going and doing something in private equity. And I just didn't have anyone in my world that had done this. Now it's part of why I do what I do, which is to make sure that myself, my network, that we can be of service to others who are contemplating either one way or another going into private equity. But I just did not have an ecosystem around me that had really done this. I had a very hard time discerning what deals to do, what deals not to do, et cetera. I had no experience. I really didn't have a network to rely on. So anyway, private equity kept calling. I kept looking at opportunities. And I just didn't know which one to pick. And I just decided, all right, the next time someone calls, since I can't figure this out, I'm just going to do it.
Get out. Are you serious?
I shit you not. I mean, I don't mean for it to sound that flippant.
Sure.
But being honest, I'm just like, and it had to be like someone of whatever.
Of course,
but I was just like, I can't sort this out. And so I'm just going to go give it a whirl the next time something comes along that seems intriguing. So that's how it happened.
Amazing. So explain to me, where was degree 1 at when they called you, and then where? Let's talk about kind of the timeline through what happened after that.
Yeah. So the call came in. We were evaluating the deal for probably about 6 months, we closed the deal. I left my job and went and joined, and I left behind, running. It was really interesting. I was on someone was asking me about it the other day. They're like, "What were you doing when you were 38?" And I'm like, "Oh, I was running a $2 billion division of a publicly traded," which sounds insane. Like it still sounds insane to me. I don't know why they let me do that. But I ask myself those questions all the time. But I'm like, oh shit, right. I was doing that. Anyway, so, and making great money, things were very steady, and to go do this other thing. And I learned so much on that journey, what to do, what not to do. We all do when we step into these seats for the first time. I think that the biggest lessons learned, and I talk to founders and people about this, is that, when you are running a division of a public company, for example, the way that I was, it's not that you have P&L responsibility, but there are other things that you are not managing and really haven't been trained to manage, and that I was never really trained to do, and because I'd never started my own business. I'd always gone in and fixed and grown other people's assets, right? Like we were acquiring something, I was stepping in to run something that was already established. And today I'm building a company for the first time ever from the ground up, right? But you're not taught to manage cash.
Sure.
You're managing AP and AR and customer collections, but really managing to cash. You're really doing, from a treasury perspective, every private equity backed deal you're investing in the company with both, debt and equity, managing to covenants, managing to these things that really I hadn't had the experience dealing with opening balance sheet, closing balance sheet, gap adjustments, bank reporting, financial reporting it's all the stuff that, because I did not come from private equity, I did not come up this way. My network, no one could prepare me for. Mm-hmm. And so I've really kind of made it, everything I do and have done, what I always say to people is, I have stepped on the rakes already. I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. The pain that I suffered, the way that I learned, I don't want you to have to learn that way. And so I always view these things as very positives, as big positives, because I am going to learn and I'm going to make sure that I share the knowledge and wisdom with others. And so, we started with one acquisition, and I think that over 2 years I did somewhere between 8 to 10 acquisitions in that platform, and then it was merged with another company, it's now part of another much larger business, and it's exciting to see it thriving, and I think it'll have another exit here soon. So,
help me understand what happens in a situation like that, where you take it and you essentially roll up all these other businesses into it, and then it's ready to merge. How do you part? What does that look like?
The journey is very different based off of what it is that you're building. I have built companies in different ways over the course of my career. I have built companies that were purely organic. I have gone in and done turnarounds and restructuring of businesses. I have built businesses that were primarily organic with a little bit of M&A. I have run businesses that the primary driver of growth was through acquisitions. Mm-hmm. We teach courses on this now. And I think, listen, when you're doing what they call a buy and build, when you're buying other companies, and I talk to founders about this all the time who are at the beginning of this journey, I will tell them it is incredibly difficult, and it can be incredibly rewarding if done well. But there are things you just really have to learn, understand, and avoid, because we all know the headlines, but statistically, right, only 50% of acquisitions or less work really well, right? And so, the things that are most important, or the thing that is most important, is culture. The other thing that I would put up there that, from my perspective, is equally as important with culture is, what is your vision? You as the founder, you as the CEO that's leading this, and why can you not achieve that vision organically? Why must you go acquire to achieve what you want? It's really important that we soul search on these things to understand the why behind it, because you are basically merging with another family.
Yeah.
These are difficult things. And if you're doing this on a serial basis, especially listen, every business is a people business, whether you're in manufacturing, distribution, right? There are people. But certainly in professional services, blue collar trades, right? Where really the asset, it's the people.
Yep.
And so these are basically, every family is a dysfunctional family. Every business, it's just your dysfunction. Every business is a collection of people and a culture that you did not create, that was not born from you. And there's no such thing as intercultural integration. There is normalization and assimilation, but so you really, really have to have this strong vision of what it is that you want to create, the timeline in which you're trying to do something, right? And you feel so strongly and passionately about what you're doing and what you're building, and the ultimately the company that you want to create, that's taking you to the acquisitive path. And I'm talking specifically here in the low mid-market, businesses of our size, businesses of your size. And then the next thing that's most important, and you can only spend so much time with people, in some ways it's almost like an arranged marriage, is to make sure that there is cultural alignment on vision, alignment exactly on what this is going to look like to the best of your knowledge and ability ahead of the transaction. And so that requires spending a lot of time. That also, ahead of the deal, it also requires meeting a lot of people and having a really big funnel, because most people, not all, probably date a bit before they get married, right? And so I often encounter founders who have decided for whatever reason they want to go do M&A. And as soon as they've kind of made that decision, or it might have been the thing that prompted them, something happened. Someone they know came to them and said, hey, would you be interested in merging? Hey, I'm retiring, I'm going to sell my business. Hey, would you be interested in such and such? Or they made this decision and they start to look around and they meet someone that wants to sell them their business. And they get very fixated on this idea of doing it, right? And then executing a transaction. And what I say to them is, I need you to pull back right now. Let's go back to basics and make sure we understand your why, make sure we understand your vision, and remember that this is not something that can really end in divorce well. This is this is old-fashioned marriage. This is death to do us part shit. Because if you get this wrong, the opportunity cost of a bad acquisition, because it will take so much of your time to go repair this. It's going to take a lot of your time anyway to make everyone feel warm, welcome, invited. You're going to be neglecting your family of origin from your company for a period of time anyway, while you go make everyone feel comfortable with this new family. You really have to have your house in order and make sure that you've cleared the time and space to focus on bringing these families together. And because this is such a serious thing, especially at the beginning, getting this right, you don't want any acquisition to go wrong. But the first 2 or 3, if you think you're going to do this on a serial basis, you really need to take your time, and you need kind of eyes on the world. You need a comparative analysis, right? You need to do a lot of dating so that you make sure that you are not letting this goal that you have set, and a lot of founders are great at setting goals and achieving goals. This is a very different thing because you don't have you have very little control over this, whether it's going to happen or not. And we're dealing with people.
Sure.
And so really, really taking your time, what we say to founders is, in your first deal, even if that is the one, that's the one you end up marrying, I want you to go meet with 15.
So find 15.
Find 15 perspective
people just to talk to, just to get into the conversation with.
Sure. That you think, what we call it the buy box.
Sure.
Basically, that like fit your vision of what you might like to acquire, that you would actually think about acquiring. I want you to enter into conversations with 15. I want you to take those 15 conversations, if you can, maybe you take 10 of them to NDAs and exchanges of financial information. I want you to go do site visits and get to know the people at 5 or 6. And then I want you to narrow that down to 3, right? And then think about but you only, right now, you only get to marry 1, right? Go through that process, go through that vetting process, and continue to come back to the understanding that the acquisition, the day that this closes, that is day 1. Now you own it. Now you're together. This can't end in divorce, right? So it all starts, all that energy, all that effort, and you are at day 1, the day the deal closes. And I also remind people, by the way, when you're at day 1, in many transactions, there might be anywhere between 1 to 5 people in that company. Let's say you're buying a HVAC company, a distribution company, manufacturing. It doesn't matter what it is. And let's say it's a small business. Let's say 40 people.
Sure.
There might be 3 people of the 40 that know that that transaction was about to occur. And so for you and your team, you've been living with this knowledge and preparing for this perhaps for a year, 2 years. The people you've been engaged with to do the transaction, they've been, from the time you met them to the time you close, that could be a year. But now you're showing up and there are maybe 37 people on that side of the family that you just acquired that are hearing this for the very first time. And so you're going to want to take a break. The seller is going to want to take a break. And that is the time where you have to make sure you have the emotional and time capacity to lean in, to bring people into the family, to help explain the WIFMs, what's in it for me, to help reduce FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to explain the vision and where you're going, and to develop and earn trust. Sorry, I just went into a whole bunch of stuff.
That's all right. This is great. So I have to ask, after hearing all of this.
Oh, it's not beer. Okay. It is root beer.
Whatever you say.
I'm drinking like a child today. I've had a long week. I deserve a root beer.
I have to ask then. So why would somebody want to acquire versus
That's a great question.
No, versus grow?
Great question.
Organically? I mean, and I'm super curious about this, right? Because I have all these different things going through my head now. Because I
know you do.
You said that the why is so important, and so the question that's going through my head is why?
Why would anyone do this? Why would anyone do this? Right, exactly. It's so hard. We do it all the time, right? Because there are compelling reasons to do it. I'll tell you the story of a client. Extremely compelling reason, like incredible reason to do it. And I'm so proud of where they are now. So this client of mine is the largest steel manufacturer in Guatemala. They own 90% of the steel market, 3rd generation family business in Guatemala. Guatemala today operates under a number of protective tariffs that really promote industry, right, in this type of industry specifically within the country. However, there is a fear that there could be some form of regime change from a tariff perspective, and the government over time could enter into some type of agreement with the Dutch or the Indian government or the Chinese government, which would then prompt a flooding of Dutch steel, Chinese steel, Indian steel, right, into their market. And so so there's only so much control they have over that. And so the decision was to make the business anti-fragile, we need to acquire other companies that are like us outside of Guatemala and other countries. Now, they've never done, so that is from my perspective, that's a compelling reason, right? You're one of the largest employers in a country. Part of what gives you your competitive advantage is a tariff regime. And so that's really compelling. The issue is they'd never done this before, and they didn't get much counsel, and they lost about $200 million doing some bad acquisitions. And so I got a phone call. Can you go teach them how to do this? And that was a very, very interesting call. And I said yes. And I thought it was going to be a very intriguing challenge. And here we are 2 years later, and they have completely transformed how they do deals. It's just they've completed some incredible acquisitions, and it's just so I'm so happy for them, for all of their employees, for all of the families, for what they're building now, across Central America. It's just so marvelous to see. That's a compelling reason. Look, their acquisitions happen all the time in professional services. And so I work with a lot of professional services founders that they have this vision of the firm they would like to create. I worked with a finance and accounting firm. The founder had an incredible vision of basically being a one-stop shop for all of the needs that private equity investors would have, basically in something called the office of the CFO. And so, if you think about what small businesses need that are backed by private equity in that sector, everything from outsourced CFOs, outsourced controllers, outsourced accounting, moving them from QuickBooks to, let's say, Sage Intacct or NetSuite, cost management, all of these things. And that's a very compelling vision. To build that, now he also had a time frame in which he wanted to build that. And so in order to achieve this vision in the time frame, it made sense to acquire. Right? It made sense to acquire. And so the company we helped them build, just incredible journey, went from $1 million of EBITDA to $30 million of EBITDA in 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah. And just a fantastic journey. Not easy. That's a very quick pace. So there are compelling reasons, but once you have a vision that there's something in you that wants to achieve something, whatever that is, and then you come back and you say, okay, I've got two paths, right? I can build this myself. That's kind of what I say, organically or de novo, or I can acquire, or some mix. Acquisitions can really, really speed up the process, right? Can really get you there faster. They just come with certain potential pitfalls that if you're doing this for the first time, you haven't lived through it, you can just get yourself into trouble early because you don't know what to screen for and how to be discerning. And so I've lived through this, and that's why we teach it a lot now.
So what advice, or let's put it this way. What scenario would you advise a founder not to acquire and to grow organically?
Yeah. The first is, just some basic things. I think the most important thing is that you first have your house in order. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people are thinking about doing an acquisition because they've gotten into trouble and they think that like this will buy them out of it. Mm-hmm. And basically, that is like just adding fuel to a house that is on fire. You're just going to accelerate.
Yeah.
It burning down, right? Potentially, sure. Right? And so, this takes so much time and effort and deliberate care that you really want to make sure that your business is operating smoothly. And I'm giving this advice really for small businesses. We are not talking about Google and Amazon and Microsoft and ExxonMobil and
that's perfect because most of those people aren't listening.
They're not listening, right? So, the first thing is like, operationally, is your house in order? Mm-hmm. Financially, mm-hmm. is your house in order? Culturally, is your house in order? As
the order of importance of those things, operationally.
Oh gosh, well, really? I mean, I think cash is the most important. I think
so financially first.
I think financials are really, really, really critical, but you want to make sure that you've got your financial model, your operating model, your team and your culture really, really dialed in.
Okay.
Because typically this is going to be you as the founder going out and looking for other businesses. This really means that you're going to be, because you're now pursuing this other highly strategic thing, that you are really going to be leaving the day-to-day operation of the business behind as you go out on this journey, right? Mm-hmm. On this next journey. And so it's really checking yourself to make sure that, my business runs really, really well without me. And you have this other vision. Do not do this because the business is running really well without you and you're fucking bored. Mm-hmm. Do not mess with people's lives. Do not mess, right? Do this because you have a compelling vision to dominate a market, to achieve something, to provide something for your customers or your employees. There is something that you want to do, right? Make sure that there's a compelling reason. And you really need to then make sure that your team and your organization understands the next phase of this journey and that they are bought in and excited about it, because this also explains why you are off doing what it is that you're doing. Whether or not you're successful at it or not, this really kind of sets the stage and gives you the grace. It also, what ends up happening is because people are then so bought into the vision, the team will start to coalesce around you and will start to up their game, because they also know that to achieve this next thing, only you can be out doing this.
Right.
And so there's this organizational lift that can happen when this is done. When this is done well. I don't even remember what your question was, but I think is, why do you want to go do these things?
Yeah.
And so what you're basically evaluating is like I work with a lot of, for example, personal injury law firms, as an example. That is really a marketing-driven business. So if you want to go expand, let's say, into a new state, you've got to either do, white label marketing, or you've got to establish a brand from scratch against brands that have been competing in that market, in some cases for decades. And in that case as well, it can take you up to 2 years before you start to see revenue, right? So you've got to go hire attorneys, you've got to invest in marketing, you've got to invest in intake, you've got to invest in case managers, you got to invest in technology, you got to put a location down. And because you only get paid on contingency when these cases settle, it's not to say that that organic or de novo expansion is not the right model, but you might instead say, you know what, I should just go buy another established brand in that location. You've experienced some of this yourself, right? This organic versus inorganic de novo startups and starting new branches, they take a lot of time. Takes a lot of working capital.
Yep.
Right.
You need good leadership.
You need great leadership, all these other things. And so you're walking into a market that you don't understand, right? You're going to hire people that you don't know, all from scratch, unless you get really lucky and there's some and so a lot of times what'll happen is you'll move one of your people there.
Yep.
But
which we have done as well.
Right. But if they're not from there, what the hell do they? It's good that you got your person, but they're learning too. And
you got the cultural part down, but not the geographic part.
Yes,
because it's a different style in the geography that they're operating in.
And so let's say you want to go from, let's say your clients are saying to you, and sometimes, by the way, your clients are lying to you. Every time in the trades, one of our clients says, "Man, we could really use you over here." A lot of times it means they burnt out every other supplier in that region. Or procurement basically said, "We need 3 suppliers, you only have 2, go see," and I'll be like, "Fine, we'll go there. Can you guarantee me all your work, please?" And they're like, "Oh no, you gotta, you gotta do it on the come." I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll do this for you. So, but I'll do this for you, but guarantee, and some clients will. They will guarantee you the work.
We've had it both ways, and then we've had clients also say, "Yeah, we do. We guarantee it," and then we don't get it.
And then you don't get it,
yep.
Right? And so I also need the contractual obligation, right? Like, so anyway, but so you start to, after you've gone through this a few times, if you still have that vision of going, let's say, from local to regional, the amount of time that it can take and learning a new market and all these things. The right thing to do might be to acquire if you want to do that. And what we often find is that the best acquisitions, in most businesses, all businesses, start with your peer group network. This is really, really important. Many, many industries, peer group, have mastermind groups, either through nonprofit associations, like in the janitorial space. Hi, John Barrett, who's retiring from ISSA and moving to chairman emeritus this week. John's the chairman, CEO and chairman, well, now just chairman emeritus of ISSA, the Worldwide Cleaning Association, right? Nonprofit organization. There's American Contractor, Air Conditioning Contractors Association. So there are many peer groups in some cases that come up through the trade association that's representing the industry, and you get into peer groups with folks. There are also paid peer groups in different industries, and then there are forums like YPO and EO and all these things. But those friends of yours, right, that you've been getting to know, that you've been sharing best practices with, maybe that you've been in a peer group with for 5 years, and you've really been together truly as humans.
You've shared pain points, and like you understand their business, they understand yours.
And more than that, it's more than that.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah,
it's you
have a connection.
You have a real connection. You guys are talking about life, and you're talking about philosophy.
Yep.
And you're
talking to Vistage. I've been in Vistage for a long time.
Absolutely.
Same thing.
Absolutely. And you are sharing best practices, and you're comparing what you're doing in marketing and tech hiring and parts ordering and all this stuff. The best initial acquisitions when you're doing this, whether it's with or without private equity, but especially if you're doing this without private equity, are cashless mergers that are done between peer group members, because the trust, the relationship, these businesses are basically pre-integrated because you are already operating in a similar way. You're already benchmarking against one another, right? You've truly come to know each other. The hardest thing, though, in doing all of this is there's only one boss.
That was going to be my next question, is how do you decide? Like, let's give an example, right? You're in a peer group with somebody, maybe it's an equal size business as yours, right? And you want to consider doing a cashless merger.
Yep.
And but both are driven by high achievers, people with big dreams, big aspirations. How do you decide, who gets to run the ship, and what does that mean? What does it look like?
Yeah.
What are you giving up?
I mean, it kind of happens naturally, right? Because it's just like building any other team. Now you're bringing your kids to the marriage, and they're bringing their kids to the marriage, right?
Yeah.
So,
Brady Bunch.
Right. It's a Brady Bunch. And I live in a Brady Bunch house right now. But anyway, you've been there. And so what happens is, just like forming any other team, I mean, there are the dysfunctional, well, you know that superhero mythology is really, really important for me. You know, you just don't want to end up like the Avengers. They're pretty, you know, like they try. Tony Stark, was Tony Stark the leader for a while? Like, it's hard to say, right? Like, they never really figured it out. I mean, they kind of won in the end because they're
But then the Captain America kind of took that.
Yeah, right. And then look at the Watchmen. Oh my gosh. Like, you talk about, I find that, you know, but whichever cinematic universe you're in, like, you can't be like Justice League. You know, like they might have been a little bit more functional, but Batman and Superman could just never like get their shit together, man. Right. So I use these analogies because I think we can all relate to this is the question. And so now you go to, I can't remember who wrote the book, but I think it was Team of Teams about Abraham Lincoln. Right. You go take a look at that. Right. You go through your history and see when people came together.
Team of Rivals.
Team of Rivals. Sorry. Thank you. It's right over there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One of them down.
Thank you. See, I can't keep it all straight, but he can. So, right, go take a look at these examples and say, you know, here's how it forms, which is, you all decide to do this. This is probably not going to be the only one you're going to do. You're probably going to be the first two puzzle pieces that are coming together in this vision that you have cast, and there are probably going to be 3 or 4 more, right? And typically, what emerges from this is a real dialogue around who's going to now be the head coach of all of these individual entrepreneurs and contributors. And what's likely to happen is someone is actually going to want to do that and have the skill set to do that. The other person is going to be like, thank God. That sounds horrible, having to manage a whole bunch of entrepreneurs. Thank you. Can I just run my business? Great, right? And then someone else is going to be like, you know the role that I really want? I want to be the guy that is going and like standardizing operational procedures and financial operations and cash flow management and working with all of our leaders to do this across. Like, that's really my skill set. That's what I want to do. Now, does this sound to you like team building at the level of your organization? It does. And so these same conversations naturally evolve, right, with your peer group members, because you start to think about, okay, if we're going to become a holding company, however we want to integrate, house of brands, branded house, all this other stuff, we don't have to get into all that detail, but whatever that because this becomes a collective vision, right?
Yeah.
And so then we have the adult conversations, right, about what it's going to take to make this successful, what roles are required, who is best suited to do it. And you know that you have the right marriage when these are natural, unforced conversations.
It's a really good answer.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Am I done? See ya.
Yeah, that's it. Drop the mic, don't drop the mic. That's expensive. You used a term before. It just rolled off your tongue, so I'm not sure if this was intentional or not.
The Avengers?
No.
Oh.
No. Anti-fragile.
Oh, yeah.
Anti-fragile. Why say anti-fragile instead of strong? Or is that just interchangeable? Or is that intentional?
If it rolled off my tongue, it's because I am intentional about my language when it comes to these things. You will see certain things that show up in my way of thinking, in my way of communicating things that I think are things that we can all understand, right? And so, I think that, strong is strong is kind of like a relative, we all have different versions of that, but when you think about fragility, anti-fragile versus fragile, that evokes, I think, a mental picture for all of us that we can immediately understand the difference between these things. And I'll talk about like a characteristic of a business. And we talk to founders a lot about this when they're acquiring other businesses, or let's say thinking about selling theirs. And we always ask founders to think through the investor lens, whether or not they ever want to sell their business or not. Then these things of fragility or anti-fragility, show up. You want a business that is anti-fragile. For you, it might be great. I've from the investor lens, I've walked into many businesses, and what has been built is an incredible business and incredible for the founder. But for an investor, it can be a little scary. And I've walked into many businesses where the founder has said to me or us, you know what? My relationship with this particular client is just so incredible. And we're now best friends, and we go on vacations together, and I do all their work, and it makes up 80% of my business. For you, as the founder, as the entrepreneur who built this, that's fantastic. What an investor hears is breaking glass, Humpty Dumpty crashing on the ground, right? All they hear is customer concentration. They're hearing that there is a personal relationship between you and this other entrepreneur. They are thinking, well, what happens if it's not anything that you did, Mr. Founder, but that your client goes bankrupt? What happens if there's an event like a COVID event or a recession or whatever that impacts their business, and then 80% of your business is dependent on them, right? So that's what investors hear. So anyway, I use the term, to create anti-fragility so that we can sustain shocks to the business. I think these are really, really, really important things. Anyway, you asked why I use the word. That's
I appreciate it. I was I was curious.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one. So especially in my industry, which you're very familiar with, right? This commercial B2B HVAC refrigeration world.
Yep.
What is something that you would say our audience thinks they understand or thinks that they know that they might be getting wrong about acquisitions?
Oh gosh.
Or even PE.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. I think all right. Let's just start with valuation. I think your industry has been consolidating for a long time. So valuations are pretty well known. Yeah. But what we always say to founders, and I think it just comes from our athletic mindset, but it's also this is selectivity for us. I use the analogy if you own a home in a suburb of Milwaukee and the per square footage range for an investment property is $200 to $400 a foot, you cannot pretend like your house is in Aspen and trades for $3,000 a foot. Yeah. I can't work with you. And the business is likely not to trade for that, right? And so you have to just be anchored in reality. And then there are these factors, and we write about this stuff in the book, as you know, right? There are these factors that kind of when you're looking at a house, the things that drive that valuation range: location, foundation, age of your roof, quality of your appliances, right? Quality of the bathrooms, the paint, all these things. When you take a look at a business, right? Succession, leadership, systems, quality of your financial reporting, quality of your cash management, how you are operating from a profitability perspective related to your peers, right? Quality of your revenue, stickiness of your customers, client concentration. So quality of your revenue, quality of your growth. Are you growing with the market rate of the industry? Or are you able to sustain, to organically grow above that? Recruiting, retention, right? These types of things, right? So you can really kind of benchmark yourself, against these things. And so I think that, when it comes down to acquisitions, I think the most common misperception when founders are doing this for the first time is that it's easy.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I mean, that is really just because, like,
you see this shit on TV. You listen to podcasts, you read books, and
everyone. And I'm the antithesis of this, and to my own detriment, because I'm not out there thumping my chest. I'm pretty private. I just say what I really think, and I'm trying to help people not get into trouble. Right. And learn from and just understand the reality of things. The reality is that these things are very hard. And the reality is that, I don't know why they are made to be sexy. Mm-hmm. I can't quite figure out what is in it for people to be kind of promoting the whole acquisition, entrepreneurship through acquisition, go do a buy and, just go buy a bunch of stuff and you can you just throw it together and you make, I don't understand.
Especially in like the boring business space, right? This is that term that's been coined over the last couple of years. Go buy a boring business. Go buy a boring business.
Well,
And I've heard of horror stories. I've heard of people.
You and I both.
Yeah, going and buying a home service HVAC business for 6 times EBITDA, and then just having absolutely no idea what they're doing, and everything falls apart in 6 months. Right,
because a lot of people also buy businesses, and the founder will say, "This business runs without."
Sure.
I've been So the other big thing is just to remember as the buyer, unless this is someone that you've really known for a long time, and you've really been inside the business, as the buyer, you are always at the disadvantage. You just don't know, especially if this is someone that you've just met, that you've cold met on LinkedIn or through a business or it comes up through a broker or whatever it is, right? You've just met. They're gonna show you everything that you want to see. They're just like dating, right? Like, you're not gonna your date is not gonna fart in front of you. Well, they might, or burp or whatever. Like, is it okay if I say these things? I sound like a really serious business guy, don't I? but they're going to put on the best version and the most controlled version that you can see. Now it's up to you to do diligence, right? You've got to do your diligence. Here's the other thing. If they won't let you come in the building, if they won't let you do right, especially at the beginning without private equity, and you are staking your whole business, right, along with them, your reputation, everything that you've built. It's not like you've got all this private equity backing. Yeah, if that one works, we'll make it up on the next 2 or 3, right? At the beginning, when it's just you, right, your assets, what you're really looking for is someone that is in this with you. But yeah, there are a lot of retiring founder businesses that are selling to, entrepreneurship through acquisition. And there's a lot of risk in that. There's a lot of risk in that, especially in the quote unquote boring businesses, because there's so much key man dependency. And so it's just really important that you don't let the key men walk away at the beginning, and you do not let them walk away with a bunch of cash at the beginning. There's got to be long-term incentives, seller notes, earnouts, rollover equity, whatever
that ties them to the business,
to the performance of the business. Yes. So you're really looking for people that if they are transitioning out, they are. This is a staged transition over time with financial incentives tied to the successful transition of the business. This is how you build more stability into this transitional phase. So yeah, there are lots of, and listen, at the end of the day, you will only know so much. And at the end of the day, if this is something that you are compelled to do, you only have so much time. And so to get to know the business. And so this is where deal structure especially at the beginning, as you're doing your first few deals, really important. But there's a guy, Steve Carroll, who's here in town, who I've had on my podcast, who's a dear friend of mine at Kelso. I think they've now done, Steve, I forget, you tell me every day, it's like 28, 30, 32 acquisitions. I can't remember. But Steve will tell you the same thing that I'll tell you, right? So they buy commercial non-union HVAC businesses. Their best performing deals are a third cash, a third on a 3-year earnout, a third rollover equity. Right? It creates the right short-term, medium range, long-term incentive.
Third rollover equity,
A third of the value in an earnout, and let's say a third in cash up front.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Seth, you've written not one now, but 2 books. Is that right?
Yes.
Amazing. Let's talk about those books for a second.
Okay.
What are the books about? And why did you write them? Or do you want to talk about one at a time or both at the same time?
We'll talk about the one, and then it's a little nutty. Okay. So a few years ago, when I was asked to do the M&A class, that's not something that I had naturally thought of. But when someone asked that, because I started my career as a coach, I moved away from coaching. It is still, coaching and teaching is just in my DNA. I think that you're kind of called to it. I never meant to get into business. I'm a reluctant entrepreneur. I love helping people. I love developing talent. I love when people have this aspiration and they're willing to engage with coaching. I don't mean that in the business coaching term, but like to really dedicate themselves to something and to surround themselves with the right people that can help them achieve their goal and give themselves over to the learning, right? And so when I was asked to teach this M&A class, part of the reason I did it was just like, oh my gosh, I think I could really help these people. And that is like, it's such a nuanced thing. The course we developed is taught over 3 days of 8-hour days.
Yeah, I've seen the material.
Yeah, it's insane, right? And so like I can't just send the material to people and have them, because like it is meant to be.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was May of this year, early June, when I had made a decision that I wanted to, for the first time, shape my company into something other than what it was. The whole journey of Samson, the company named after a dog, sitting in my car calling Steve Griesmer because I needed to start a company. And, there was really no intention. And I ended up really kind of connecting with 2 things emotionally. I had a decision to make. The first decision to make was, do I really want to be an entrepreneur? And the answer was yes, but it is not really there's not the textbook reason. My reason doesn't show up in a textbook. My reason is because I suffered such horrible, terrible abuse as a child that what I realized through my journey is that to be employed makes me feel kept, makes me feel as if I am a prisoner. And I finally, that doesn't mean that I have been, it just means how it, I was as a child, but it's how it resonates with me neurologically. And so I made a decision that, if I can make the type of living and the type of life that I would want without having to work for someone again, then I'm going to try to do that. The second thing that I had a visceral emotional reaction to in a positive way was that I've seen so many founders, as they think about selling their business, especially smaller businesses, not get good advice. And I have been on the buying side of it so many times. Sorry. When I'm sitting across from a family, usually a husband and wife team, could be a father and son, could be a mother and daughter, whatever, that has built this really incredible business. And for whatever reason, they want to sell, and they got no guidance before doing this, and they end up with a broken deal. They end up just having what they had envisioned in their mind just completely shattered, or entering into a deal, not necessarily under duress, but like completely demoralized, really, at the end of the process, because no one helped them understand the things that they could have done to the business beforehand to get the type of outcome, again, within reality, that they wanted. And so I just felt this strong, from my core, from my solar plexus, need to help as many founders and owners of private businesses that decide that they want to sell to private equity or whomever, to come as close to getting what they deserve, right? And so I then asked myself, what's a way for me to do this? And so I had already written another class on teaching this, because I'd been asked to do it. I'm like, let me convert this to a book. And I made that decision in June. And then I actually was just with another one of my friends this morning who's going to be in your podcast, who was very upset at me that I did not include him in the book. Jake, I'm sorry. I promise you'll be in the third book, which is going to be on M&A. But I need a break from writing. And so I have 24 of my friends who are executives in the book as well, sharing their story, because I didn't just want this to come from me. I wanted to make sure that we had as many credible perspectives coming from different types of founders, different situations, different people within the community of transactions, to help inform and reinforce, so that, somehow, some way, there's someone that you, as a founder, and there, many of the stories are very similar, but there's going to be someone you connect with, right? And so, like, the selflessness of our contributors to lend their voices to the book was just, I'm still deeply honored by their contribution and selflessness to share their stories to help others. And so, the book, the owner's manual, why, how, and when to sell your business to private equity, has been created and released. Still working through some kinks on that. And not only that, during this time frame, we codified our entire business system of how we work with founders, and created something called EVRS, the Exit Value Realization System. And so the way that I would think about what we've created is, if you think about traction in EOS, which is fantastic. I actually have a client now that Gino Wickman still coaches personally.
Really?
And this just happened. And to me, this is like hand of God that we're on a good path in terms of helping people, that they now need us. Not that there's EOS is a beautiful thing, but it is not designed to help you prepare the business for an exit.
No, it's designed to help operate.
Exactly. And so it's a fantastic platform for us to and for us to come in and do our work with founders, right? Sometimes we're working with them for, it could be 6 months, it could be 3 years before they have a transaction, right? But it's designed to help founders understand the investor view, because it's not that we've not convinced them to do it. That's not our job. They've realized they want to do something, whether that grow through M&A. Maybe they need outside capital to help them do that. They want to sell the business. They want to retire. They've got a vision. Whatever it is, whatever the reason is, they really, in most cases, have not been building the business with the investor view in mind. They've been scaling to scale, which is fantastic. We want them to understand, because my team has worked with over 200 private equity firms. There's the stuff I've done, and then you add all the shit that my team has done. We're talking about, we've looked at thousands of deals. We've executed hundreds of transactions. We want them to have all of that knowledge, so that we've reverse engineered it so that they can kind of make a decision. I go back to the house analogy. You might choose to remodel your house before you sell it. Mm-hmm. You might choose to remodel the business before you sell it to get the type of outcome that you want. Not all businesses need that. They need different things, but we wanted to provide the framework for that. And then my company, my firm, has become an expert in something that's happening in the United States right now, which is outside investors being able to acquire law firms through what are called alternative business structures. We are one of the 3 pioneers in the United States that did this with private equity for the first time 3 years ago. And we've done a lot of that now in consumer law, and specifically within personal injury law. And so we also decided to bring out an adjunct to the Owner's Manual called the Owner's Manual Personal Injury Law Firm Edition.
Oh, okay.
And so that
same principles, just hyper-specific.
Hyper-specific to PI.
Very cool.
We could create one for HVAC. I could create one for roofing. We could create, but because I don't know yet. But
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to take a break, because I will remind you, I thought of all of this in June, while also running the business, growing the business, launching an investment bank, raising capital for our own co-investment fund. In any case, not all of that's done yet, but it's all in motion. But because this is happening so rapidly right now, and because lawyers, for the most part, in the United States could only ever sell their firms to other lawyers. Mm-hmm. So they never came up thinking that they had a transactable asset.
Sure.
And now that private equity is coming in so hot and fast, and that these founders have this opportunity to participate in the market this way, again, myself, my team just felt so compelled to help them understand this world, that they really, because you've seen this world for a long time in your industry, because you've got friends that it's gone well for them. It's got not so, you understand all the dynamics and everything that's involved. This is a whole segment of the U.S. economy. I mean, the legal sector is a $400 billion segment. Personal injury itself is about $55 billion segment in the United States. All family and founder-owned businesses, 50,000 of them in the United States. Now private equity is coming after them. They don't know this arena they're stepping into, and we can't help them all individually. So again, this is my desire to help as many people as I can. So this is our first kind of like vertically specific book. And again, the contributors that we have in the book, I'm just so humbled. Mm-hmm. We've got Andre Mora in there, who, is one of the leading CPA investors in the United States from New Mountain. We've got Trisha Rich, who's like the leading legal ethicist thank you, Trisha, in the United States, in contributing to the book. Everyone feels the same way that I do, that's contributed here, in terms of like, we need to help as many people as we can. And so I hope they're good. I'm so ashamed. I just, listen, if we help one person, it's great. The effort will be worth it. I just hope that the books aren't shit, and that they actually help people.
Honestly, Seth, what I love the most is the diversity of perspectives that you have in the book.
Yeah.
It's different than just reading like a business book or a self-help book, where the author is basically, I'm no offense to authors, I am one, put put themselves like in that seat of the professional, and now you're taking all your advice from that one author.
Yeah.
In your book, there's 24 other people who are speaking to exactly what you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
So it's truly an amazing platform, and from just a sheer information standpoint and humility standpoint, on perspectives, I think it casts even a wider net. It helps you look at it through a broader lens, so you can relate it to several different things depending on which tone you're hearing it from.
Yeah,
it's really so. Kudos to you on that, because that's an incredible way to author a book.
Thank you.
So anyway, it's great.
Thanks.
I've got some threads I want to pull on.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
In the spirit of the title of this show, it's everything they don't tell you about business, leadership, and becoming who you're meant to be.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the things that we like to dive into is resilience of mindset and how struggle can shape you and what we can learn from it.
Yep.
So I want to pry a little bit on you.
Yep.
And ask you had mentioned here that you suffered quite a bit of abuse as a child.
Yep.
And if you're willing to take us through that journey, I would love to know how you came out the other side and what you learned from it and what other people can take from that. We have an incredible platform on this show to be able to share that perspective. So, with your permission, I'd love to go back and understand what that was, how that affected you, and what you're doing about it today.
Yeah. There's only so much I can say about, at this stage in my recovery, about what happened.
Sure.
I would just, but I would just say that if you can imagine unimaginable things, like that occurred to me. The abuse was over many years. It was multidimensional. All I can say is I'm very blessed. I don't know where most people that suffer the type of abuse that I suffered do not make it to my age. They're already dead by suicide. If they are still alive, they are typically heavily medicated, on drugs, in and out of jail, not married, not able to function well in society, many of them. Or many are suffering just horribly in silence. I have a condition, it's technically a disability, and it's technically a brain injury called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. We all know what PTSD is. PTSD usually occurs later in life when the brain is a bit more developed. And it's typically a one-time event. You get into a car accident, a bomb goes off, something like this happens, but just that event rewires your brain. CPTSD is typically happen. Those that have it typically happens earlier in childhood development, where there is prolonged abuse, multifaceted abuse over a long time, and the brain also rewires. And so the amygdala, which controls fight or flight, grows significantly because of the chemicals that it's putting out. It also suppresses the development of the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. And so the ability to emotionally regulate, because you always feel that you are in danger, is very difficult. It's also psychoreactive. And I think the biggest thing about CPTSD is just what happens to your self-conception. Because when the things that happen to me, when they happen to a child or others, you can't find safety. You can't think to yourself at 8 years old, these people that are doing these things to me are horrible. All that really comes into your mind is, I deserve it. I must be bad. I am unlovable. I am terrible. I should be ashamed of myself. These are the false beliefs that also become neurologically embedded.
They become truths.
They become truths. These become your truths. And so the work to unpack this is deep work inside to truly rewire your brain. And beliefs are some of the hardest things. Beliefs about ourselves are some of the hardest things to unpack and to change and to unravel, especially when they happen very early in life and they're compounded with this type of work. So anyway, that is the condition that I have. I also happen to just be born with a little bit of ADHD. that in the grand scheme of things, that's easy to deal with.
You're by all intents and purposes, looking from the outside in, an incredibly high performer.
Let's go.
Successful person, right?
Right.
Highly accomplished.
Sure.
We just talked about all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm a firm believer. I love the phrase that everybody you meet is fighting a battle that you know nothing about.
Correct.
And I try to adopt that, and I try to bring that with me everywhere.
Yeah.
How have you been able to achieve what you've been able to achieve with what's happened to you?
Well, first of all, I'm not a religious person, but I'm spiritual. Part of the reason I'm not religious is that I was blessed with a drive, a grit. I was blessed with a pretty strong intellect and a curious mind. I think the only way that I've been able to do any of this, and I don't think of these as achievements, I just think of, I don't think I've achieved anything other than I think I've helped a lot of people, maybe. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing to me. I think I'm loved. I'm learning to love myself. None of the things in business or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm proud of the teams I've built and what those folks have gone on to achieve. I'm very happy for them. But I think that I'm here for a purpose. I think that part of the reason I don't subscribe to one religion is I like parts of so many of them I can't pick, right? And so, I believe that it's from grace. It's beyond me, and I'm here to be hopefully a positive role model, which is why I think I'm here to be a positive role model for other people that have suffered abuse, that need a voice to say that it was not your fault. It does not have to define you. If you seek help and put in the work, you can heal. You do not have to suffer in silence. You should not be ashamed of what happened to you. And I say these things not for my own self-interest. I say these things because I'm at a place in my career where what's more important to me are to say these things. We talked a whole lot about M&A and all that other stuff, but if there's one person, I did a healthcare podcast a few weeks ago, and there was one person in the audience who was recently diagnosed with CPTSD, similar to me, had hid what had happened their whole life, and finally came clean, got their diagnosis, and they had never heard another person out loud, certainly not a executive, say these things out loud. And so I just think I have like most things in my life, I think that I have a duty to share this. How I got here, dude, I got no fucking idea how I held it together. I really don't. My wife, my friends, my teammates, who always suspect, like, I would always say, I always knew, well, the way I used to describe it is something's really wrong with me. I always felt, well, I was also told that I was insane, that I had imagined there was so much evil in my household, that I was, anyway. But I always felt these false beliefs. I always felt that I was broken, damaged, and I was afraid, because of what happened to me, to ever speak a word of it. And so I kept it inside. I think that's also what drove me, because I basically made a determination when I was 11 years old that I would not be like my parents, and that I would escape from that family and from that situation, and that I would be self-determined through my life, and that I could only rely on me to do it. And so I started to take ownership of my life at that age. Now, still with a damaged mind, right? But blessed with a curiosity and a work ethic and a drive. Basketball was a major salvation for me. That really was the thing that kind of, lifted me up. But, and I would say that to avoid all the things that were going on in my mind, all the voices that were talking to me about how horrible I was, the way that I distracted myself from that was to work.
Story I've heard several times.
Yeah. And so, man, and did I go to work.
You seem to still be going to work, Seth.
Not as much as I used to. Not as much as I used to. I just had this little creative burst, right, where I decided, you know what? I should create a business system and do a book and launch another thing, blah, 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 whatever. Listen, that was a little overboard. But for the first time, it was for a purpose. And I don't just mean that in terms of helping other people. Most of the things I've done in my life have been because my identity was so shattered, that these were things that were suggested to me to do. It was even suggested to me for the first time when I was 30 to be a CEO. It's nothing I conceived of. The only reason I got out of athletics was that I had 9 surgeries between the ages of 16 and 19 on top of all the other shit. And my playing career came to an end. Yeah. And then I went into coaching. I always wanted to coach or play professionally and then coach. And, that got taken away, went into coaching. And emotionally, I just needed to get away from the game, but I had to go make a living. So I made all the, I didn't study business in undergrad. I learned business. I ended up going back and getting a business degree and all that stuff. But I had no connections. This manifested, and
did you do it to prove something?
It's hard to say. I think quite honestly, everything I took on, I had never done before, and I wasn't trained to do, and I had no role models. Right. And so people would be like, you should go do that. I'd be like, okay, I'm sure. I never did that other thing before. So that seems like a challenge and something that would be a really hard challenge. I'm going to go take on the hardest challenges. And because I would beat the hell out of myself, right, I just wouldn't allow it. This, what I'm doing now, what I've decided to do, trust me, there are a lot of people that are trying to tell me not to do this, and you said the thread earlier, and actually there's a poem about the thread in the dedication to my book, to the first book. And so I am what I'm doing now, what I'm creating now is coming from me. It's not been suggested. It's not being, there aren't a lot of people most people are like Seth. Listen, I ain't young anymore, but I'm not that old.
You can still dunk.
I can still dunk. at least as of my last birthday. But, you know, like most people, like people come to me like, why don't you raise your own private equity? Why don't you go be a CEO again? Like all these things, all the things that like other people might do. I'm not interested in those things. I'm interested in what I'm doing right now. I don't know, because I've never started a company from scratch until this. I still don't think I can do this. I still think everything I'm doing is wrong, shit, not going to work out, whatever. But the difference is, despite that fact, I'm putting that aside and not letting it get in the way of saying, you know, I would like to be able to create a company that helps people do these things and to create a team that helps people do these things. And so despite what I think about myself, I am putting those thoughts down. I'm not letting my identity get in the way of creating the world and the business that I want to create. I may succeed, I may fail. I'm actually not even thinking about the outcome. I'm just thinking about the act of creation. When I write music, I don't think about the outcome. I think about producing a song that speaks to me and might help people. I'm taking the same approach that I take to my music to the business.
That speaks volumes. Specifically to me, I've got a filter, pillars that I run everything through. Right?
Yep.
It's freedom, presence, impact, and love. And the way that I hear you speaking, focus on the creativity, not the outcome, right? That speaks to presence. I'm doing it's coming from me, right? That's the freedom.
Yep.
I do it to help people.
Yep.
That's the impact. And I mean, the love is just pouring out. So I truly thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I'm curious, what do you think? You talked about anti-fragile in relation to business before.
Yeah.
What does an anti-fragile mindset look like? Does it exist?
It's a good question. It's one that, I mean, I might need to ponder my answer to that for a while. I'll try to respond without too much inner dialogue. I think that, you know, one of the things for me, and I talk about this a lot, I'm actually pretty good at it, is despite the fact that I might beat myself up. You know, when I was a basketball coach, I used to say, men's college basketball, when is the last time there was an undefeated team that won the NCAA tournament? As far as I recall, that was Bobby Knight in 1976. That's a long time. That's a long time, right? So that means that on the way to whatever thing it is that you're trying to achieve, there's going to be failure along the way. We have to treat the failure, we have to celebrate the failure, we have to treat the failure as learning. Like, I'm learning a bunch of stuff right now. I'm doing a bunch of stuff I've never done, and I'm learning from it. It's just, you know, there's a Zen saying that basically the obstacle is the path, right? And so that mindset, I think, and it's been proven, actually, they've done studies in collegiate swimmers, which is an interesting sport, you know, in tennis, you know, the inner game of, like, these individual sports, right, where you are alone for hours on the court, right, or in the pool or whatever. Quite interesting. They've done a lot of psychological studies around this notion. Do you hate to lose or love to win? And it's actually interesting. Most people, when you ask this question, they'll all raise their hand, hate to lose, hate to lose, hate to lose. Those that say I love to win actually have a stronger mindset. Because hating to lose is more of a defensive posture. Loving to win means they love to win so much that it doesn't matter what gets in their way. They love to win so much that they will not give up until they are there.
I like that. I like that a lot. and celebrate the failure. I think that there's a lot that our audience can take away from that.
Yeah. Just don't sink the ship.
Just
along
don't sink
the
the
way.
ship.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Measured failure.
So, Seth, what's a truth that took you years to fully understand, but then changed everything for you once you did?
That's a wonderful question. Should have sent these over ahead of time. Just teasing. I wish I had an answer, because any answer I would give you is an answer that you want to hear. It's an answer that I'd like to be able to say is true inside of me, right? But it's not yet, because I'm not yet fully there. I wish I could tell you that we are all born deserving love, and that I'm saying that that's not true, but I still don't necessarily I'm still not necessarily there. So I could say to you, oh, I've made this turn because I'm supposed to have made this turn, right? But because I want to answer you authentically and honestly. So as opposed to being able to give you a profound answer, I will give you a more practical answer that I learned, which is, and I give you a funny one too. At least I think it's funny. We really, and I think you posted on this recently, change takes time. And I have learned to slow down and temper my expectations, and to understand that, when you're walking into an organization, let's say you've just acquired a company, like you might have all these things that you want to do, but there's only so much capacity. There's only so much tolerance. There's only so much time. There's almost only so much money. There's only so much talent. You really have to think in 3-year, at least when we're dealing with major transformation and major change, 3 to 5 year cycles. And as a young, gritty, trauma-informed executive, boy, could I burn some people out. Boy, could I burn them out.
I bet.
Because the way that I could push myself, what I could sustain, the pain that I could take, like people still do not. So it's like, how the hell did you do that? Or how the hell are you, like, I'm a bit numb to it. Now I'm getting better. What has happened though is I have learned to regulate. Just because I can take it or I can do it, I have to think about what is good for everyone else.
Yep.
Right. And so I would just say to young people who are, taking on a leadership role or taking on that first CEO or whatever, doing your first acquisition, et cetera, like, give yourself the right context to understand where everyone else is, and to understand that things take time, and to pace it out.
That's good. That's a really, really good one, and a powerful one that I've got to temper myself with sometimes.
I think we all do as founders, because we it's our job to cast the vision. It is our job to see. We know where we want to go, and we know typically the steps. We've already kind of planned it out. We've sequenced it, et cetera, right? But then what we have to go back and do is we have to go back and re-sequence it based off of our constraints, based off of reality, based off of the fact that these great things that we want to achieve, we can't do them alone, or we wouldn't be building great enterprises. And so it's also then to give yourself, like, that is not, in re-architecting your vision and sequencing it properly, do not view that as failure, right? Give yourself grace and understand that you must, these great things have to be done with others. And so, like, it's okay to, you gotta pace things out. You gotta slow yourself down. And then if, as a founder, if you that energy though, you've got to discharge. Find good, healthy ways to discharge that extra energy, because if you just leave it bottled up, it'll eat you up.
It's good advice.
Yeah.
All right, round in the corner here. What's one question you wish more people would ask you?
What are my dogs' names today? Because I named
Yes.
the company.
That's what I was hoping you would say.
After Sammy, my first Cavalier. So today we have Blue, who's a Havacavapoo, and he's got congestive heart failure. So we're monitoring him very carefully. He's a good boy. He's named after a character in Old School.
You're my boy, Blue?
You're my boy, Blue.
Oh,
I am so regretful that I didn't get a trainer to teach him how to drop and give me push-ups. Like that would have been so cool. And then Daffodil, I often wear a Daffodil t-shirt around Chicago. It says, I'm Daffodil. My daddy says I'm his baby girl. He's whipped. She is the puppy.
I've seen that shirt.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sammy. She is the puppy love of my life. I love that 12, well, she's a little chunky right now, that 14-pound little Cavapoo. And then the next dog, so like we always name the dogs. I name the boys. My wife names the girls. So we have, coming up, we have Newman from Seinfeld.
Nice.
Princess Penelope, not quite sure where that name came from. And then Baxter, because Baxter was Ron Burgundy's dog. So anyway, those are at least the names of the next three dogs.
That's amazing, Seth.
Yeah.
All right. Where can people find you? Where can they find the book? Where can they find more information about Samson Partners?
Thank you for asking. So Samson Partners Group, www.samsonpartnersgroup.com. Our one book is there. Our second book will be there. All the resources that we use to deploy the exit value realization system are there for free. Second book will be out soon, and the books are on Amazon and they are at Barnes and Noble and blah blah blah. But they're on Amazon. Please, I hope you get the owner's manual. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it helps you. And the thing that I always want to say to people is, we developed an assessment. There's an email actually in the book. It comes. All the emails come to me. So, of course, right? It's like, but anyway, it goes into a special box though, so I actually see them, nice. Right? And we developed I was reluctant to do it, but it's there. We developed basically an assessment, which is very difficult to do with such a broad range of businesses and scenarios, but it's basically an assessment. It's kind of like if you called me and asked for help, these are the questions I would ask you. And based off of what you told me, I might say to you, you know what, the exit you want, go ahead, man. I think you're good to go. Or I might say to you, you should take a little bit of time and work on these few things. Or, look, like, slow down, dude. Like, or chick or whomever, whatever. Yeah. You got, there's to get the exit you want, there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit of stuff you need to do. Yeah. This thing does not kick out evaluation, whatever. But I put a lot of time into, and the team did, into creating that. I want to say that I do know that test can be, test, see, I just said test, that assessment, it could be intimidating.
Sure.
Right? I don't want anyone, if anyone feels, I don't want to tell anyone how to feel. If you download that and you're like, man, I don't know the answers to these questions, like, do not be intimidated. I've just brought a person on staff to basically help founders just like fill it out.
Nice.
If they want to. We're here to help people. So like, if there's something on there, questions you don't know, don't understand, whatever, just reach out to us. The other thing that we tell people is, and it's in the book, we say this, like, I think a good idea with these types of things, just like we were talking about personality tests earlier, I think it's a really good idea, someone that you know and trust, that they don't have to be in the business with you, because you may not want, like, someone in the business to know that you're contemplating this. You might. It could be your wife. It could be a friend of yours. Like, it could be someone from like a Vistage group, whatever. I really recommend that you have someone else that knows you and your business well enough to take the test as well. I think it would be good to like, kind of like, there are the things we tell ourselves, right? Like,
Yeah.
So it's just a suggestion that I have, but I don't want anyone to feel that we're overreaching with the assessment. I also don't want anyone to feel, the last thing we want them to do is to like not understand a question or be like, oh, I don't have the information. So it's no big deal. You don't know, you don't understand something, don't have the information, aren't quite sure what it means. Just reach out to us. We're here to help you. And like I said, try to find, someone in your community as well, that in your sphere, that understands the business, and seek their guidance as well.
And that's at Samson Group.
It is. It's at samsonpartnersgroup.com resources. There are a number of things on there. So you can buy the book on our website, which is cool. Soon the second book. Number 2, the assessment is there. 3, all of the tools. When we come into an organization, kind of similar if you go on the EOS website, you can download their stuff. All of our stuff is there. So like, if you can, like, I have this, yes, you started with the 10,000 founder thing. The reason I have that goal is that, I mean, it's, first of all, I'm embarrassed to even say it, because it's like, then I think that like 10,000 people are going to read our book, which is a ridiculous thing. But the reason I put it out there is to say that like, I think it is highly probable that someone could actually read this book, get our tools, and go do this without our help. That's like my dream. I want to get that call one day, or that email where someone says, I spent $14 and downloaded your stuff, and this is what it did for me. Like, that would be like super, super cool. But if you need our help, we're here. It's just that, like, I want as many people as possible to have access to this information. Amazing. I think they deserve it. Amazing.
Seth, thank you so much for spending this time with us today, for sharing, for going deep, and for really helping me and our audience understand not only who you are, but, why what you do is so important.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks. How did we do?
I think we did good. How do you think we did?
I have no idea.
I'm blacked out and well talked.
I throw the best Halloween party, I believe, in Chicago.
Amazing.
Years ago, when we moved to Cincinnati, we moved into a block, and of course, none of the neighbors told us it was like the Halloween block, and we like way ran out of candy. And my wife is very competitive, more competitive than me. And she's like, next year, like, we basically have to win at Halloween. And so I think we achieved that there. When we moved to Chicago, this is now almost 15 years ago now. It's crazy how time flies. We didn't even know how long we were going to be there. We were in an apartment. We ended up, moving to a townhome. I gave all my Halloween stuff to my brother-in-law. And after COVID, I was like, I have good Halloween skills, and I think I would like to cheer up the kids in the neighborhood. And so I decided to kind of like start doing Halloween again, and the kids loved it. And so my competitive nature fired in again, but I'm like, I really wanted to do something special. And we've done it anonymously in our block in Chicago. This year I had to come out to the neighbors because I needed to do a petition to basically lock down the block to do a block party. And so we always have a theme, and this year's theme was 80s cult. We watched some show on Hulu last year. I'm like, that'd be a great theme for Halloween this year. And we named the cult the Black Billy Goat Cult. We created a theme song and had that recorded for the Black Billy Goat. you need a sacrifice. So I had 6 foot by 6 foot black billy goat piñatas made. And then I had black billy goat heads made as well, piñata heads made. And then I've started to do live entertainment. And so we had a juggler, sword swallower, fire eater, sacrifice. That run of show repeated. Then we repeated entertainment one more time. And then I'm like, you know what? We need some actual billy goats. So we had a billy goat petting zoo as well. And
how many people attended this?
It's hard to say because, but we went through 1,200 full-sized candy bars, and those were out probably with 30 minutes to go in the show. We went through all types of stuff. But so, I would say a good, and the candy police that work the event for us.
Sure.
We also had 20 actors in addition to the performers who came as cult members. But I think that I'm guessing we had throughout the night, because it's a rolling 2-hour show, production throughout the night. I would guess at least 1,500 people.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah. It's like, it's so much fun. I love it.
How long does something like that take you to plan?
Oh gosh. I've gotten better because I also have like 30 pieces of animatronics, light, sound, fog, DJ. I started to think about, I think I came up with the theme maybe, let's say, November or December of last year. I started planning in June.
Uh-huh.
But now like my neighbors and like some of my neighbors, Bob, hi Bob, and some of my friends have gotten involved in how, because it's gotten, like a lot of things I do, it's gotten too big for just me to handle. And so it was just so wonderful this year. Nate Barney, just a number of my friends really, really pitched in this year to help. And I just do it because I want to create joy.